We're at the Panasonic booth at CES 2017. I'm with Matt Frazer with Panasonic. You oversee the cameras.
Yeah, I'm kind of the Lumix guy, they call me.
The Lumix guy. So this is the highlight of the show for you guys, which is the new Lumix GH5.
That's correct.
It can do 4K at 60 frames per second, among other things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Well, kind of start from the front to the back. Totally new sensor in the camera. It's a 20 megapixel sensor, and we removed the anti-aliasing filter, which means it's going to be very sharp. And if you watch any of the content from people like Griffin or Luke who put it out there, it's amazing the kind of detail you're getting. It's also great for photographers. Don't forget this takes pictures too. It's not just a video camera. Once you come through there, we can do obviously 4K 60 like you mentioned, but we can also do at 4K 30 or below 10-bit video in 422 color, which means people who want to take their video and process them in post-production will have a lot more room to work with now and be able to really push that color grade and make it look awesome. Or if you have an HDR television set, you know, one of the new 4K HDR TVs, you're going to be able to take this footage and with a future firmware update, record in a log, what's called a hybrid log gamma, which will give you that HDR image without having to do all the Hollywood processing to get it done.
So are you saying like you're getting a lot of high-end filmmaking specs in a almost consumer-friendly camera?
Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. So you're going to be getting really cinematic features only cinematic cameras would do. Even things like for ultra slow-mo function, we're doing 180 frames per second in 1080 video. So when we look at what we've packed into this camera with the 10-bit capability, 180 frames per second, you're getting a camera that you had to pay about $10,000 for before this came out to get those same features. On top of that, you'd have to buy a gimbal with that camera because it won't stabilize itself. This camera integrates our 5-axis in-body image stabilization system. So the sensor's actually stabilizing inside of this for you. So if you have non-stabilized lenses, it'll stabilize those. But if you use our lenses that are stabilized, you get the dual IS system, and that gives you tremendous stability. It's 5 stops for photography, and it basically makes this look like a gimbal when you're shooting cinematically.
And it's so compact, you're able to basically use this in a lot of places that a traditional filmmaking camera won't be able to go.
Yeah, I mean, unless you had a Sawzall and you want to cut the A-pillar out of a car, it becomes very difficult to get those shots on the dashboard. This camera can definitely do that. And frankly, it's affordable enough for high-end production and does the quality they expect. That as a crash camera, it's going to be an awesome crash camera. But frankly, for most people, it'll be an A camera.
Now you mentioned it's also a great still photo camera.
Yeah.
You're introducing 6K photo. What does that mean?
Okay, so this could create some confusion, so I just want to make sure everybody's aware. What 6K photo means is it's the same pixel density as a 6K video image, because it's shooting video. It's about 5,000 pixels wide. It can be about 4,000 pixels tall. What this means is that you're shooting video at 30 frames per second. Each frame is an 18 megapixel still, and it autofocuses for every single frame. So you're getting an incredibly fast shooting camera for sports and wildlife photography.
And 4K photo, 6K photo, that's a very unique feature to Panasonic.
Yes.
Basically, you're extracting a high resolution photo out of video, which is really cool. That means you can shoot video and then go back later and find a frame and then take that out.
And I think it's important for people to know you don't have to do the frame extraction from your computer. It can be done right in the camera. It's a very simple process, and it saves them right to your DCIM folder, so they're easy to be able to save and share.
This is awesome. Everyone loves the GH4, so I think everyone's really looking forward to this. So what do you think this will do for the filmmaking community?
Well, I think it's going to, Panasonic's big into democratizing the high-end cinematic revolution. So you're getting much better features at much lower costs for the customer. I think one final thing that we've done for the filmmaker is to try to make it easier to organize your files. So we add 2 SD card slots to the camera, and they can relay record, so you could have one stop and the other start, but it does more than that. You can have your videos go to one card, you can have your still photos go to the other, so if you're doing time lapses in conjunction with video, you can do that. On top of that, you can name each folder. So once you get the DCIM folder, we're at the CES 2017. Your camera operator could name a folder CES 2017, and then he could have, for the files, he could have put PB for Panasonic booth, so he can see all the Panasonic booth files that he's recorded. Although we don't have a lot. This is a one-take shot, kids. That's how good this guy is.
Finally, price and availability.
It should be $2,000, and it should ship by the end of March. Okay. I'll be really upset if it's not out before April.
Okay, I think a lot of people will be upset if this is not out by then. So we heard a little bit from Matt Frazer about the new Lumix GH5, their latest mirrorless camera. It's micro four thirds, and now we're going to hear from someone who's actually gotten a chance to use the camera, and we'll find out a little bit more about that. I'm with Griffin Hammondnn. He's a documentary filmmaker, and you want to talk a little bit about yourself for those folks who might not know about your work.
Sure, yeah. Some people know me from a documentary I made called Sriracha. I shot that on the Panasonic GH5, and then I've been covering the US presidential election for Bloomberg, shooting with the GH4, and Panasonic gave me a GH5 about a month ago, and I shot a little short documentary with it.
So you've been using this camera since the GH1.
Yeah.
You're one of the lucky few that have been able to use the GH5. Quick thoughts so far?
Well, it's like they put way more in it than I thought I needed. Like, I was very happy with the GH4, and I thought maybe we'd just get an incremental update, some faster shutter, faster frame rate, and we do. We have 4K 60p, but then they gave this thing so much more that I didn't even know I needed, like in-body image stabilization, has dual SD card slots, and they've added all these other like filmmaker-friendly features like waveforms and high bit rates and all this stuff.
So for a filmmaker like yourself, what does that do for you?
Well, being able to shoot 60p in 4K means that now I can do slow motion in 4K, which I couldn't do before. I can also get up to 180 frames per second in 1080. So if you're into slow motion, this camera has a lot of opportunities for you. The in-body image stabilization for me is the big one, just because I'm a handheld shooter most of the time. And especially when I'm blowing my stuff up into 4K, I could normally see that little like jitter. It's like a little shake. And this gets rid of it, so that's really nice.
And so you've been using the GH4 for a while. You've spent a few, how long have you had some time with the GH5?
About a month now.
A month?
Yeah.
And so far, what are some of the pros that you've noticed?
Well, I was worried about shooting in 60p because I have to shoot with half the shutter speed as well. So I'm doing a 120th second shutter speed. And so I'm working with half as much light as I normally would. And I was taking this into bars, and I was just thinking, this is going to perform well. But like, I never needed to go above 1600 ISO, and even there it looked really good. And it seems like I can go all the way up to like 3200, 6400 and still get pretty good noise level.
And why do you like using a camera like this as opposed to like a cinematic camera that's larger and more expensive?
I do like it for its size. I mean, it's one of the reasons I like a mirrorless camera, because it has a little bit smaller lenses, the body is pretty small, and I can just be an unobtrusive documentary guy. I don't want to like make myself too apparent. I want people to forget that I'm there and act normal.
Do you have a favorite lens that you use with the camera?
Yeah, I have a couple. I really like the 12 to 35 millimeter as just like an all-purpose shooting interviews. It's a great like walking around, getting everything you need lens. I also just recently fell in love with the 12 millimeter prime. It's an f1.4 lens. It does not have image stabilization built into it, but because this camera has the body stabilization, now this lens does.
And one thing we didn't touch on, it's actually weather sealed, right?
Yeah.
So that's perfect for your line of work.
Yeah, I mean the GH4 was splash proof, and I think they added freeze proof to this. I mean, this thing is rugged and couldn't survive me taking it. I was like, a guy was literally chainsawing ice blocks in front of me, and I was just letting it spray the camera because I know that it can handle it.
So what are some thoughts as you continue to use this camera? Is this going to replace the GH4 for you now?
It won't even replace it. I've always used the current model and the previous model, so I still have a GH3,
okay.
And it's probably time for me to retire the GH3, but I'll keep using the GH4 because it's a great camera, even though I can't believe it's 3 years old. Like, it's still a solid 4K camera.
What do you envision for your future project with this camera? What kind of quality do you think we'll find that we haven't seen before?
Well, I just shot this latest film, this 5-minute doc, in 60p, and I'm presenting it in 60p, and that was new for me to show something in that high frame rate. So maybe next I'll go back to 30p and slow it all down and see what that looks like. I'm also interested to see what I can do with the 180 frames per second in 1080.
I'm sure as a filmmaker you've used a variety of products, cameras from different companies. What draws you to Panasonic and the Lumix?
Well, ever since the GH1 in 2009, I picked that camera because it just seemed like it was filmmaker friendly. I mean, early on, these cameras had audio meters on screen and just all these little things that photographers wouldn't necessarily need, but filmmakers like. And they just keep adding more of those things. So I just feel like, as a filmmaker, Panasonic is listening to me. And they literally are. I had some feedback on the GH4, and they already fixed some things.
Nice, nice. So it's a great little camera, it sounds like.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. Thanks so much, Griffin.
Thank you.
Looking forward to your future work with this camera.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks again.